Hello, this is Old Sins Reviews on probably the last day of swimming of this year, at least in this body of water. Probably no more until February. I'm going to be reviewing the Laundry Files books by Charles Stross. Previously I'd reviewed Neil Asher, who did a bunch of spy novels set in the far future. Stross does spy novels as well. He is working, though, on a completely different premise, despite the fact that he's also a bit of a very English author. Stross writes spy novels from the perspective of a paranormal agency, one that is tasked, along with many others across the globe, of keeping sure that the things from outside space and time and beyond the stars don't eat us all in our sleep, or do worse. The series, and it is a decent length one, is one of the better examples of this sort of fiction. I have found it to be engaging and interesting, with mostly interesting characters. The protagonists, the primary one makes a lot of sense. The ones who crop up for two novels, there are two novels where he has one of the secondary characters be in charge, are both very good, and you actually kind of want more of one of them. A banking vampire. And the rest of the characters are pretty good. I would say you could look at this as an example of how to do spy fiction in ways that Asher is not. Stross calls himself the first truly cyberpunk sci-fi author, in that he does network security or such. This ignores so many others that come before him, and I think it's tongue-in-cheek when he says that, or I hope it is. The sheer number who worked in the tech industry in the 90s and 80s and 70s and 60s and 50s and 40s is just enormous. I mean, so many of these people worked in the Air Force or Navy with computational systems, but that's neither here nor there. So, how's Stross as an author? He's pretty good, nicely descriptive. The universe is Lovecraftian with a bit of mythic thrown in, so you can look at this as a much better version of Lovecraftian fiction, and that you kind of get a feeling as to what a Lovecraftian world might actually be like. Hopefully I'll be reviewing another batch of works in the future that also deal with the Lovecraftian world from a more realistic perspective, but that's in the future, and I hope that the author gets to a third book before I start on that. So, what are the problems with his work? This great well, it's not great, it's very good spy fiction that portrays a modern world that has a Lovecraftian underpinning. Well, the problem is it appeals to geeks and people who have worked in large companies almost exclusively. There are so many inside jokes about bureaucracy, so much detail that someone who isn't familiar with bureaucracy will just be completely and utterly bored by, that I don't know if I can recommend it to someone who has never ever seen the inside of one of those wonderful organizational memos when they change who you're reporting to for the 5th time that month. If you've been in the military, if you've been in the U.S. or any other federal or state government or any large university or hospital, you should get this. If not, I don't know if a lot of the conflict will make any sense. And that's a problem. because as a reader, I get it, but that's just because I'm me and I've had my experiences. I don't know if the majority will. And the problem is, this is the sort of thing that makes it more realistic. This is what actually makes the books better than your average one, is that it has a kind of perspective that makes sense, that is the way people would deal with it. You know, it's one of those things where if you're going to have secrets, you're going to have thousands upon thousands of people knowing these secrets, and they're going to be classified and compartmentalized, and people are going to have to read in and read out, and you know, put in different places in the org chart just because of what they know. So that's a significant part of the conflict, and it's an important part. And if you are going to have realistic stories about the paranormal and the interaction with society as a whole, these are necessary things to discuss. So, on the one hand, that's great. On the other hand, it could be very alienating. I personally can't wait till the next one comes out. I hope to see it soon, and then more after that. One nice thing about Stross is he started off with a very nihilistic perspective, and I think he's mellowed on this. So if the nihilism in the first books bothers you, just keep on slugging. I mean, it's not to say that it's not bleak. It's a Lovecraftian world, after all, in his laundry files. But it's one, again, and this is true throughout, which isn't just about humanity submitting to the dark gods. It's humanity doing what humanity does, coming up with solutions, even if the odds are implacable in some ways, and everybody's working against you. So, that's it. Thank you. This has been Old Sins Reviews about Charles Stross's Laundry Files.